Hi, welcome to week 8 of my album day challenge reviews. And this was a very good week. I really liked this one. I mean, the lowest one I had on this week was a 6. So, it was a good week. Alright, let's just get right into it. This week we had By the Way by Red Hot Chili Peppers, the soundtrack to Caddyshack, Cage the Elephant, self-titled, um, Californication by Red Hot Chili Peppers, Cities by Anberlin, Close to You by Frank Sinatra, and Codes and Keys by Death Cab for Cutie. So the first one, By the Way, by Red Hot Chili Peppers, I really, really like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and this album definitely had a lot of their songs I'm not as familiar with, and just the bass lines and the funk and all of it was just absolutely fantastic. There were a couple songs in there that weren't quite what I would like, but it was still a very good album. So I ended up rating this one an 8 out of 10. Next we had the soundtrack to Caddyshack. I remember I liked the songs that were on there, but it's technically not a full album. And I mean, the songs were definitely good. I mean, it had Any Way You Want It on there by, I think that's Boston. And again, I really liked Boston, but still balancing out the fact that it's a soundtrack instead of a album kind of brought it down just a little bit. But it's still at a 6 out of 10. Next we had Self-Titled by Cage the Elephant. It was a good album. It definitely, I really like Ain't No Rest for the Wicked. And these guys sound a lot better on their album than they did live when I saw them with Muse. But listening to the rest of their music, they definitely have a lot more good songs than just Ain't No Rest for the Wicked. But I found that a lot of their other songs also have a little more vulgarity to them, but they're still pretty decent. So I ended up rating it a 7 out of 10. Next, we have Californication by Red Hot Chili Peppers. This one was a good Red Hot Chili Peppers album, but not my favorite out of all of them. It still had the driving bass lines, the great funk to them, and even a couple of softer songs in there. But it wasn't quite my favorite, so I put this one at a 7 out of 10. Next, we have Cities by Anberlin. Now, I already know I've got a decent bias for Anberlin, but this one takes the cake because this one I already have said is my favorite Anberlin album. And I love all of the songs on this album, and the fact that they finished the album off with their lead singer and band improvising for a good 3 minutes just astounds me and is just shows their talent. I thoroughly enjoyed this one and rated it a 9 out of 10. Now we have Close to You by Frank Sinatra. There was not a single song on this album that I did not like. I loved all of them. It was the most relaxing album I've ever listened to, and Frank Sinatra's voice is, I swear, made of pure gold. It's a beautiful album and just so well made. And it really helps that I actually have the vinyl for this one and got to listen to it that way. So this is it. This is the very first 10 out of 10 for an album. It so far has been my favorite album out of all of the others. Next we have Codes and Keys by Death Cab for Cutie, and while this was a good album as well, it the beginning wasn't, I couldn't quite get into the beginning, but then there was almost a more intermission song that felt a little bit like an it was a little more instrumental and it kind of gave you a break. And then the songs after it, I got a little more into. It definitely got better. I enjoyed that one. So I ended up rating that one a 7 out of 10. So that's this week. That was this past week, and again, we hit a 10 out of 10. And I didn't know when I was gonna hit that, but that was definitely it. So for next week, we have Colors by Youth Club, Conventional Weapons by My Chemical Romance, Converting Vegetarians 2 by Infected Mushroom, Crush by Bon Jovi, Crybaby by Melanie Martinez, Daisies of the Galaxy by Eels, and then Danger Days by My Chemical Romance. I can tell you already that I'm very excited for this week because I love My Chemical Romance, and just to have two of their albums in 1 week is gonna be awesome. And we'll see you next week. Be sure to comment any albums you'd like to add to the list, and I'll put the album list in the description. And we'll see you next week.